Okay, so good evening and welcome to the senior reading for 2006. So we'll just move right on to the first reader, who is Liana Alvarez, and she writes, I was born on the south side of the Rio Grande with a sombrero on my head and a Corona in my hand. Just kidding. I don't like Corona. But seriously, I was born in San Francisco, California, in a car during rush hour on the Golden Gate Bridge. Just kidding. It wasn't rush hour, but seriously, I moved to Atlanta at age 10 and found all my long-lost Mexican brethren. Just kidding. They were Cuban. But seriously, my family moved to Zurich, Switzerland, my second year of college, and I now live next to the stop sign on 2nd and Broad Street. Just kidding. But seriously, Leon Alvarez.
Okay, so I'm going to read a fiction piece that I wrote earlier this semester. No reason in particular, just one of those great nights where something kind of cool came out. Here we go. I watched a star die tonight. It fought so bravely in its last few minutes, straining to release that final spectrum of light into the vast darkness. Then nothing. Then black. No goodbye, no explanation. No should have, or would have, or could have. It reminded me of footprints in the sand being washed away by the sea, painfully, slowly, erased. For a moment, as I stared at the memory, I wondered if it had ever been. I wanted your tender touches, sweet caresses, warm lips, you to block the cold wind, you to hold me steady. When we met, I was cracked clay, and you promised rain. But you too were clay. You too needed water. But you were too scared to say it, too scared to need, to be filled and molded with tender hands. So instead you promised, used words that were already heavy laden with implications and void of the depth of meaning that can only come from feeling, from love. We are, and then nothing, nothing. So we drowned in the frigid waters of goodbye in order to reach tomorrow. We fought so bravely and then were erased. In death, my grains of sand spread out upon the wake, indistinguishable from the darkness. There was no more I, maybe most an I, in lowercase I. And I felt nothing, knew nothing. Till the moment I realized I was completely immersed in water. To the moment I realized the waves were tenderly molding me. Till the moment my grains composed and I started to sink, finally, laid upon the ocean floor, the other grains playfully asking, what took so long? All manner of life swam by me, fish, octopus, jellies, happily, joyfully. There is purpose here, they said. There is shelter from the storm. There is validation upon a rock. I was overcome with feeling, with emotion, with a perfect peace. So this is what I had been seeking all along, I thought. And here it was always, waiting for me. Yes, I said, it has taken too long. As I turned my gaze above, I was entranced by the dancing light upon the surface. Glittering ribbons of gold, rubies, and diamonds. Through the jeweled spectrum, I saw the outline of a gigantic golden orb. For a moment, I had to avert my eyes. I had never seen so brilliant a light. What is it? I asked. It is the great light, one fish replied, the sun. It is what gives light, the light by which all things are seen and understood. It is God's love manifested that we may know him. The fish paused. I realized then how foolish I looked, how I had been trying to amass myself together to touch the jewel-toned glitter, but my grains kept floating away with the current. The more I tried to collect them, the further away they spread. And I finally gave up, meekly watching my grains reunite and settle into my ocean floor. The fish continued, the sun always shines here. Always, I asked, but what of the stars? The stars, the fish laughed. The stars are his brilliance piercing the darkness. You look stunned, he said, as though the darkness could keep him out. I attempted to comprehend this. The fish, finally bored with me, swam away. All those beautiful stars that I had spent hours watching were really this orb breaking into the darkness. I didn't even know that my world was dark. But then again, compared to this brilliance, the greatest fire would barely equate with a match. It was then that I noticed a strange image, monstrous and at the same time familiar. It was a distorted face looking at me through the waters. In a moment of stillness, I recognized it as the man I had walked with before my death. All the memories came rushing back, and for a moment I wanted to again join him on the shore. Ashamed, I froze and contracted, trying to bury myself again in whatever darkness I could find. Stop, said the other dreams. Turn and see. He has not left the water's edge since your death. I turned and looked into his brown eyes. How I loved them once. But his appearance had changed. It was old, haggard, skin worn thin, eyes tired. He sat perfectly still, motionless, even though the sand around him was being pulled away by the sea. What happened to him, I asked. That is how everyone looks in the sun. You did too, until you died. Will he die too now? That is his choice. He must acknowledge his need, let go of the self. There are many that don't, many that linger, satisfied with stars when the sun longs for them just beyond the shore. Tears came to my eyes as I thought of him alone. I wanted to go to him, to help him, to hold his hand and lead him into the peace I had now found, the peace I know he too sought, even if he was too scared to admit it. Can I go to him, lead him here? You can lead him here, the voices said, but go to him. My dear, you now only exist within these waters. We all do. A leaf cannot live apart from the tree, an arm not apart from the body. He called you to him, and you answered. And through death, you can now see the sun. There is no satisfaction, no peace outside these waters, outside of his love. You know this. I nodded, immediately reminded of my attempt to touch the jewel-toned water surface. But why can he not see the sun? Because the sun shines too brightly, my dear, far too bright. He can only be seen in reflections, or filtered through the water as you see him now. And that is what we must do, reflect him. And maybe, just maybe, those who linger will catch just enough of a glimmer to want more, to seek more. And then, maybe, they too will join us. But what if they don't? It was then that I saw a multitude of distorted faces on the shore, some talking to each other, some walking away, others straining their eyes into the water, scratching their heads at some hinted mystery, some alluring unknown. It was at those moments that the tide swiftly changed and brought more sand together, swirling them to reflect more light. But some of the curious faces were pulled away by others, and some walked away alone, back into the darkness. But a handful stepped forward, and a smile cracked their dry faces as they dissolved into the sea. Well, you did, the grins replied, and there's always tomorrow.
Our next reader is Jean Cahill. Jean describes her life thus. Lived on a Georgia dairy farm with 7 siblings. Buried at 16, 1949. Left for the world of work at 18. Married 48 years to Al. 3 adult children. Started Advanced Fitness Systems to managed it for 12 years before selling to Busybody, a chain with 38 stores in the West. Chaired the Georgia Commission on the Status of Women, served on the White House Conference on Families, the National Board of the Epilepsy Foundation of America with a maximum of 12 years, and served 6 years on the Georgia Student Finance Commission, which sets policy and administers funds for Hope Scholarships. She says that she has a true love of learning, and being back at Barry is a joy. A letter to James Madison Taylor. You must have been tired, plowing weary land, coaxing food. A team of three, you, Doc and Dan, dependable, growing sustenance for your own, and hungry men who walked the highway. You must have been tired trudging to the store, where you spent a precious nickel for a bundle of peppermint. You could have bought bread. You must have been tired those winter nights by the fire. Water, cold, you would bring from the bottom of the well in a wooden bucket, a gourd dipper. Even now the memory clear, mossy upon my tongue. Nights you named not fit for man or beast, the seeking wind pushed through cracks and sheets, icy to little feet. You warmed at the fireplace an old quilt, made by Macy's wrinkled hands. Wrapped in its cotton depths, whisked tenderly to bed, content in a soft cocoon. We never thought to warm those frigid sheets for you. And then something a little more elegant and appropriate for a gathering like this. It's called The Snake, and some of you probably heard it. Couldn't resist. Silas, I sure wish we had a bicycle or something, because I'm tired of shooting marbles. Willie jumped up as Mr. Joe's pickup truck roared up the lane. Roaring not from speed, the muffler rusted out years ago. Come here, boys, and see what I got in the back of my truck. First, a low whistle, and I'll be gall darned if that ain't the biggest snake I ever seen. Where'd you get him? He was curled up under a bush down there by the branch, probably trying to get a drink of water from that dried up water hole. How'd you kill him? Pitchfork. One time, clean through the head. Looks real natural, just like he's sleeping, don't he? Can we get any this, Will? Well, I reckon so. I already showed him off to folks over at my place, and I ain't got no more use for the old feller. With their prize, the boys gave a hoop and a holler and started figuring how to get the most from such a treasure. First, they thought about sneaking them in the kitchen to give them all a little scare. The problem with that was the thought of her confiscating their snake before they had time to hatch a way of fooling lots of people. After remembering the wood box beside the stove and the feel of a piece of wood stove wood wiping their backsides, they abandoned that idea of taking the snake in the kitchen. How about we string him off that rope at the edge of the field and drop him down on Uncle Junior when he comes in for dinner? That seemed a safe plan. They could drop the snake at just the right time and run before Uncle Junior could catch him. It was already past 11, no time to waste, so they got busy working out the details. How are we going to keep him from seeing the string? Asked Silas. This took some careful planning. The boys found a nail pounded into the back of the tree. With the string carefully tied near the snake's tail, they hauled the snake up just out of sight, wrapped the string around the nail, and waited. Soon Uncle Junior was coming, leading the mules and sweat pouring down his face. You look mighty hot, Uncle Junior. Why don't you come over here and cool off in this here shade? Your mules look a little hot too. They a little cooling off. Nope, boys, I gotta get to the outhouse in a hurry or it'll be hell to pay. He hurried right on by. A few seconds and peeked away from the waiting snake. Shoot, this sure ain't working out like a plan. We're gonna have to think of something else. They considered putting the snake in someone's bed, but that'd take hours before anything happened, and those boys wanted to have some fun right now. Besides, they were afraid the snake might start to stink by nighttime, and if they got a lot of stink in the house, Mom would sure not tan their hides. Hey, I got it. Here we are right next to US #1, and we ain't even thought about all them tourists driving down the highway. They ain't gonna stop, and they can't get us in no trouble. If we get in the cornfield close to the highway, we can hide behind the corn stalks, won't nobody on the highway see us. The boys got all fired up over the thought of scaring unsuspecting tourists, but they didn't want to let their snake get ruined by the first car that came along. After a little planning, they decided to tie the string near the snake's head, stretch him across the highway, and when a car got close enough to see the snake, they would jerk him across the highway, then put him back for the next sucker to drive. The tall corn kept them right out of sight. This plan worked better than they dreamed. What with the screeching of tires, the drop-jawed, bug-eyed looks from drivers. The boys rolled with laughter each time they pulled that snake across the highway in front of some unsuspecting tourist. After carefully putting the snake back across the highway and jumping in the cornfield for about the 10th time, the boys It was Mandy Lee, and they couldn't stop laughing, knowing she's scared to death of a little bitty snake, much less a giant like what was stretched out in front of her homecoming truck. When she saw that snake, she floored it, aimed her truck right for the boys' prize. Realizing their snake was in danger, the boys gave a hard jerk, and that snake became airborne, and then straight up caught the top of a tall corn stalk. By the time the snake came to a stop, Mandy Lee had grabbed her shotgun from the right side of her head and started shooting. The boys hit the ground and shouted, don't shoot no more, we's just playing." When Mandy Lee heard them boys hollering, she started shaking so hard the boys thought she was having a stroke or something. So they rushed out of the corner to show her they weren't shot or nothing. When she stopped shaking, she went straight to the boys' mom. "I could have killed them young'uns and spent the rest of my life in the penitentiary. Besides that, I nearly had a heart attack when I heard them boys yelling. I thought I done hit them with my gun." It was a long afternoon waiting for Pa to get home and wipe their backsides for scaring the daylights out of poor Mandy Lee. The boys ate supper standing. After supper, they figured they'd best stay out of sight till things cooled off, so they offered to slop the hogs and water the mules. And I don't know what I did with the last page of this, but I was just winging it. When they were far enough from the house, the boys just rolled in laughter. Willie said, "My back end might be burning now, but I ain't never going to forget the look on Mandy Lee's face when she come and busted out of that truck, blasting with her shotgun." Silas said, "Yeah, but I hate to lose the use of that fine treasure before he started to stink." How's my time? Am I getting tired of any of this? I've got a dozen when I left when I first. In one of our classes, we had to write an epitaph for ourselves, so I think it's appropriate that I would close with this brief little epitaph. My life was lived backwards, you could say. Marriage, 18, childless till 30, entrepreneur at 51, college degree, 74. Such a lady, my friend said, a sweet thing, my family thought. Then they began to see themselves in the scandalous books I wrote.
Now I have to wait.
Excuse me?
He took mine.
How about that? What do you want?
I'll take it all.
Take it all.
I'll send you the proceeds. Okay. Okay, Paula Robbins came to Berry College because she wanted to be part of a community of not only students, but also professors who would inspire and support her. Over the past 4 years, in both the English and Communication department, she has found mentors who have proven that Berry was the place for her. However, through her major in English Lit, her minor in writing, and her participation with the Berry College Forensics Union, Paula has constantly been challenged to both interpret and create writing that is part of a dialogue that goes beyond the Berry bubble. It is the friends and memories that she has made within this community, though, that she hopes she will one day be able to do justice through her writing. Paula Robbins.
So maybe I'm cheating because I decided to read some poetry because next week I have the final due for our advanced poetry class, and I thought, well, what better way to see what ways is clumsy revising than read them aloud and see what And, afterwards, we can make it a workshop if you guys have Alright. This first one's from last year, though. Aftermath. Your sheets were never clean, always itchy, and so I kicked them off. You thought it was because I was hot, weren't you? Instead, I turn on the news, and smoke rises from an apartment fire. You light one up. Smoke rises from a suicide bomber. You ask if I wanted it. A forest blazes helplessly as the smoke rises from you, thick curves rapidly moving into my lungs. Hot bath on a freezing day. Nothing on, not even heat. I lean back, watch the trees disrobe outside the window. Their last leaves fall as smoke rises from the water, secretive smoke, only dances on the outskirts. Lift my legs up straight, steam comes speeding off my toes. Nothing of me is curled around you, but the smoke still rises. From my lips, from my toes, the space between my thighs, and it will forever cloud you. This one I feel weird saying I wrote because it was actually a really cool prompt we did this semester in advanced poetry where we had to go to the Oxford English Dictionary and find a word and look at all of the definitions and examples given that use that word and then take what we found interesting and arrange it into a poem. So I guess I arranged this poem. But if you're a geek and you really like words, it's a really fun activity. Like a fun word. How to define queer. An imaginary street where people in difficulties are supposed to reside. Perverse, wrong-headed, strange, odd, peculiar, eccentric. The emperor is in that queer case that he is not able to bid bow. Effeminate or degenerate, men or boys unusually fine in characteristics, probably queer in sex. Female homosexual, lesbian, screwball, queer, lady lover, minty, queer as a coot. A word imported from America. Actually, I'm sort of queer for girls myself. Show thy queer substance, worthless, most absurd. Let me be known all at once and avoided. Improper, contrary to one's wish, the more it looks like queer street, the less I ask. The thought that I might be queer had haunted me. Okay, this is when I wrote this semester also. It needs work. Christmas Day 2006. I know things are bad when even my father's CDs remind me of you. You both listen to these raspy southern men, fingers as rough as their voices, and picking cotton and guitars, singing lines of women and cocaine, because they have nothing else left to bear. Like you that night on my shoulder, and my father on the gurney. I brought you home for the holidays so many times without them even seeing your face, just me, lost between embraces of you, carrying something faint and fragile in my smile. Driving back from your house was one of those few times when music just won't do, and then your favorite song came on. It was when we met, turning the music down to recapture every word and the way you made me feel, life, for the first time. At 22, still sneaking away from the crowd to be between my parents' sheets, telling my mother I've just eaten too much when I can't stand the smell of turkey baking and this heaviness inside of me makes me vomit. To daydream of you and pray that I never know a Christmas without children. All too soon you will come home with me in the flesh. A baby strapped in the back seat before my nephews stop believing in Santa and seeing the sparkle of wrapped packages and silver balls on the tree, and before I see his eyes dark with death. And go through my father's CDs in grief to find the song that was playing when you first broke my heart. This is another one. This was an assignment that all of us, I think, hated in poetry class. We had to write a formal poem. And I chose the guzzle just because it sounded cool. And it actually, I think it all taught us a lesson, and the moral of the story was when, is to try something new, because you'll find out, you'll have to figure out what you're trying to say. There was. Two words were never as bold. There was. Wherever sorrows are told, there was. From widows wrapped in warm comforters instead of a lover's mold, there was. To the way your back turned at the end, calling my bluff from your fold, there was. Tears in father's eyes as he talked of when my mother's womb lost hold, there was. No explanation to be given, they said it without looking, there was. Nothing left we could do, not enough time to end death's wrestling fold, there was. Two words so bold, outright grieving, may you never know this fold, there was. small, all told, there was. And then it just wouldn't be me if I didn't be suggestive. So, this is perfect fit. I spent too many hours in the dressing room being disappointed in myself rather than the denim that didn't make it over the widest part of me. But it's not just jeans that keep me searching for the right size. I need a man who has more than a heart that's big. I'm tired of thin hands cupping my cheeks, ragged breast signs that I'm beautiful in my own way. I'm all too grand to be held by nothing more than thin skin stretched tight over cracking joints. Those hands have to be wide as horizons if they are to handle my hips and tame these tits. What small lips could take the challenge of kissing every soft inch of expansive me? Every intimate touch I've felt has been from a body that mocks mine. So hollow and hard, leaves me feeling disheveled, my body disowned and dismayed. Give me fullness, give me large and complicated and curvy. I can only try on so many pairs of hands and lips before I scream out loud, "Dear Lord, give me the perfect fit."
Our last reader is Janelle Speck. Janelle has been writing ever since she was able, and mainly writes fiction and nonfiction prose. However, she recently won the Gordon Barber Memorial Poetry Award and second place for the Hammond Poetry Award. After graduation, Janelle is planning on going to graduate school to study library science. Janelle.
Basically, some of the read is just the beginning of a piece of fiction that I wrote last semester, so it'll be kind of a review of this. But it's called Damage. Juice, chew, juice, chew. For a long time, these words were the same. My mother would often have visitors over to the house, most of them male, and during their many visits, I slowly learned the curvature of lips and how they shaped to form words. You began with lips slightly open, slightly puckered, and ended with a kiss. Stupid began with a kiss, then the lips came together, and it ended with the mouth open, and the tongue on the roof of the mouth. I quickly learned the mouth is an knife. I was in the street throwing my small plastic ball around, pretending I was a famous basketball player or football star. Chelsea was outside with me, so my mother could have some peace and quiet, and she started barking furiously at me. I turned to look at her and noticed a car was coming in our direction, and I ran to the side of the road just in time to avoid getting hit. I looked over at Chelsea, and for the first time I felt a little grateful. Seconds later, however, I heard footsteps behind me and looked to see my mother grab me by the front of my shirt. "You stupid boy," she yelled. "Didn't you see the car coming? Chelsea could have been run over." I smelled the strong scent of alcohol in her breath and squirmed to get away as Chelsea began barking furiously again. "No," I yelled back, "I didn't hear it." My mother stepped back slightly as a shiver slapped in her face. "Stay away from the cars," she yelled once more before heading back to the house. I glared at the silver dog before chasing it away. "Stay away from me, you stupid dog," I screamed. If you study a dog lying down with its head resting between its paws, you'll notice the muscles under its ears twitch, moving toward various sounds. Dogs can hear quite possibly every sound in the world, and they usually hear it before any humans do. They even hear extremely high-pitched sounds that are completely silent to the human ear. Some dogs have ears that extend up and fall over, forming a flap. Other dogs have ears that stick straight up, so they look like they're in a constant state of surprise. I always thought the dogs with the ears straight up could hear better, but I learned that wasn't true. In the living room, I watched as Chelsea's flap ears twitched at a sound. My mother picked up the phone receiver. "Hello?" That's when I realized I couldn't hear the phone ring. A girl with a basset hound on a leash looked at me, imitating her own dog's long, pathetic face. She asked, "How come you not like dogs?" I shrugged. "I don't." "But why aren't there for me. Why not open a store that takes advantage of people like that? I sell the basics, bowls, collars, leashes, food, beds, and toys. I also sell clothing items such as the sweater Chelsea used to wear, or even worse, costumes. While doing research and ordering new supplies for the store, I discovered that there are actually Halloween costumes made especially for dogs. So I decided to take a chance and stock my stores with four-legged costumes, including Yoda, the three-headed dog from Harry Potter, and Superman. The week before Halloween, I was completely sold out. No wonder dogs go crazy and find their owners. As a young boy, I wanted to pass the time as my mother performed her daily ritual of taking Chelsea for her hour-long walk at the local park. I watched shows where characters morphed into another character, taking on their appearance and habits. I imagined myself morphing into my friend Ralph. I pictured myself 2 inches taller with longer hair, newer clothes, and damaged ears. Just once to know what it would be like. What's wrong with him, my mother asked, her hand pulling at Chelsea's leash to keep her still. I stared at the doctor with his white coat and stethoscope around his neck, and he gave me a small smile. Nothing a hearing aid can't solve, he said, placing a hand on my shoulder. I tried to shrug off his hand. A hearing aid, my mother cried. Does it look like I can afford a hearing aid? The doctor stopped resisting my mother and lay down on the floor, scratching at her brand new hand-stitched sweater my mother had just bought her. As soon as I finished school, I left home as quickly as possible, finding work with a construction company hauling bricks and stones. The dirt on my clothes and my hands made me proud, because it meant I was working hard to earn my money. And I was determined to save up enough to buy my own hearing aid. I would no longer have to wonder what it would be like to hear a quiet sound. I only lasted 3 weeks. I didn't hear the truck coming up behind me and nearly got run over. My boss decided not to keep such a liability on my face. The object of my mother's affection was a schnauzer, wearing a specially made coat to keep her warm in the chill, garnering baby talk and "aren't you cute" while I sat on the curb on the steps, always in the background, waiting for my mother to take me home out of school. I never really understood my mother's adoration for this dog. Chelsea looked like a man, an old man. Her whole body was covered in gray fur, and on her face, the fur grew long around her mouth into a mustache. She had long, scraggly eyebrows and long fur on her legs and a little stump that was supposed to be her tail. Besides the routine exercise my mother forced on her, she generally preferred to lie around on the couch to eat. I felt like she was always watching me, waiting on the perfect moment to snitch on me if I wasn't seriously. Sitting in the basement on the cement floor, the heat of love hot on my legs, I was playing an old game of Mario Brothers on my miniature handheld Nintendo. When Chelsea came down the steps and sat next to me, her head tilting from side to side, she stared at the small screen over my shoulder. I stopped playing. She turned to look at me, and I stared at her dark eyes, nearly hidden beneath the scraggly eyebrows. I envisioned my hand flying out at her soft thighs and watching as she fell on the hard floor, cowering and yelping, a smile tightening at my mouth. But Chelsea's ears twisted, and she leaped toward the stairs, signifying that my mother must have come home and left me alone in my fantasy. That's just the beginning of that. Now I'm going to read a couple of poems that I wrote a while ago. First one called Attention. The aromatic scent of spices, cinnamon, oregano, pepper, and thyme. The chalky, familiar smell of flour, sugar, and cereal. Standing next to humming grandma, her squeaky voice filling my ears with kumbaya, rolls of peanut butter in my sticky hands, dipping them in melted chocolate. Grandma said to help us. Pushing the accelerator until my thumbs raw, wind blowing past my helmet as I raced by the garden, trying to outrun my brother up ahead. Waking sleepily, head full of fog, hearing familiar voices in the dim light of morning. My mom's rapid chatter, my dad's deep throated laugh, shifting my legs against soft cotton, listening to their footprints. Papa's big bare head, my jaw clenching in his embrace, rough whiskers scratching my cheeks, breathing cologne, gasoline, and freshly chopped wood. And this one's called The Potter's House. Like clay in the hand of the potter, so are you in my hand. Jeremiah 18:6. These hands are rough, weather-stained, wrinkled hands, marked by sun and age. Permanent dirt lodges in palm creases and under fingernails from tending the soil under the sweat sun. These hands, symbols of callous work, feel like sandpaper against the cheek of a young child. His hands are gentle and patient as they mold the dark, water-soaked soil, lines, curves, a slender neck. A slight disfigurement marks the shape, his hands folded over in surrender. Fingers and thumbs work in unison to coax the side to obey. As the wheel turns by the tap, tap, tap of toes, clay yields control, gives in to us. And finally, I'm going to read a short piece that's non-fiction that I wrote this semester about a cat, Charcoal. My cat Charlie is pure black, hence her full name Charcoal. She has the quintessential cat eyes, golden yellow, with narrow black slits for pupils. My brothers don't like cats because they say cats act like the boss, instead of being loyal, subservient companions like dogs. Cats places seem to be very self-centered, calling on top of whatever newspaper or book you're trying to read, or turning their backs towards you as you call their name. Their ears twitching to your voice, informing you that they are quite possibly ignoring you. Cats' ears are comprised of 64 muscles, and they are able to move them independently of each other for any sound, including your lilting voice. Cats are known to be solitary animals, making them the preferred companion for many people who have to work and do not have the time to devote to an attention-hungry dog. However, cats are actually very social. They just take care of their own needs individually, such as finding food. Charlie is content being by herself, sitting on the tiled ledge of the bay window, watching the wind shake the green leaves directly in front of the window, where the bluebirds and cardinals hop from branch to branch. She curls up on the back of the couch on a cot with folded blankets, but settles on the rug in front of the toilet in the main bathroom, the hot air vent blowing on her body. She spends most of the day sleeping as most cats do in order to conserve energy. As a result of her sleeping 12 to 16 hours a day, she provides moments of hilarity during her waking hours. She is hysterical to watch as she jumps in the rear window trying to catch the falling leaves, or runs through the house with claws pulling at the carpet, her body surging with fit adrenaline. This rush of adrenaline is common in all felines because they are crepuscular, meaning they become hyperactive at twilight, either early in the morning or at dusk in the evening. Charlie dashes to the living room, jumps onto the window ledge, streaks through the kitchen, up onto the back of the couch, and back to the carpet below the living room, where her claws seem anchored. Her eyes are wide and her ears are flat to the side. I move with an inch when she disappears down the stairs. She often claws at the carpet with trios and the sound of shredding fabric, sounding like nails scraping a blackboard. One swat of the hand usually causes her clawing as she stares at me with those cat eyes, seemingly unperturbed by my admonition. One evening, I was sitting in the living room armchair when I heard her dreaded claws shredding the basement stairs. I simultaneously yelled and turned to look downstairs. She had paused and crouched, her claws still extended and rooted in the new carpet, her golden eyes staring into mine. I returned her stare. I knew that some animals, if you return their stare, they took it as a sign of aggression and would try to attack you. That's why you should never stare wild animals, such as a bear, in the eye. It is a challenge and will fight. As I sat staring Charlie in the eye, I wondered if she would become aggressive and if her haunches would shift as if in preparation for a pounce on the stairs. Her mouth opened in an innocent view, and she backed up, retracting her claws and sitting on the steps. I felt some surprise and mastery that I had won the staring contest and proven who was boss. But I also felt unsettled. I sensed my human egotism decreasing after seeing myself in the eyes of the living creature. I didn't like having my place in the world questioned. But I realized I was part of Charlie's world in the moments of our stare, instead of Charlie being part of mine. Later, watching her lick her jet black fur from her perch on the couch, I couldn't resist walking towards her and petting her shiny body. She stopped grooming and lifted my hand, and it interrupted her tedious cleaning process. I pulled my hand away out of respect for the grooming, and her paw shot out towards it, claws nearly within my skin. I watched as her eyes followed my hand, showcasing her feline hunting skills, and as I slowly placed my hand in front of her face, she rested her paw on it, sniffed it, and lifted it before continuing to groom herself. I sat on the couch beneath her and considered myself deemed worthy to be in her world.
Okay, thanks. Janelle, Jean, Paul, Brianna, thank thank you all for coming out again to join us for this senior reading this year. There's plenty of snacks, drinks, other ice for you to chew on for a while, so please do so and take whatever's left.